Lady or gentleman, thank you so much for joining me on another episode. If you're new here, karibu sana. My name is Rozitta. On our discussion today, we are going to be handling the topic on how to develop and build your social network or social capital. You can also call it your social network. And the guest that I have today is a man that works with the likes of Dr. Abraham Rugo, Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, Robert Burale, Waihiga Maore, Professor Pelo Lumumba, Benihino Lubengo. I mean, the list is endless. This is a man who has been able to build his social capital to such an extent that it makes you to just admire him. I'll invite him so that he can introduce himself. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you.
Indeed.
Please introduce yourself.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, my name is Okanda, Eugene, Steve. I know many people don't know I'm Eugene Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am born again. I fellowship with Seton Thika Town. Currently, I am a student at Africa International University, where I'm pursuing a bachelor's of arts in theology.
Wow.
I did my undergraduate at Kenyatta University.
Where we met.
Yeah, where we met.
We were neighbors.
And we served God together in the
Yeah,
Christian
we
Union.
did.
I did a bachelor's in biochemistry for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then by the grace of God, now I transitioned. Right now, I'm doing my master's, and God has been gracious. It has not been, a bed of roses.
I can imagine. Nothing ever is.
Sure.
Yeah,
So myself, I was born out of the wedlock. I lived and spent around 21 years.
21 years?
And then I met my biological father.
You met your biological dad after 21 years?
After a whooping 21 years.
Oh my God.
After 21 years, I was raised up by a stepfather. In fact, my mom gave birth to me in a new home. So I was raised up in another different home and grew up with a stepfather who later on life took another turn. He became vicious. I experienced, family-based violence, firsthand. Mom used to be beaten and it was a weird and very sad environment to grow up in. Later on when we were very young, I had 4 siblings then. My stepfather just woke up and hacked my mom on the on her head, on the left hand and on the right foot. And I remember as a young boy on top of my mama's body, she was bleeding profusely. And it took the initiative of the neighbors. She was rushed to the hospital. She spent quite a number of months. She recuperated and then went to stay with the relatives.
Oh my God.
So we stayed back without a mom. And the better part of my teenagehood, I never experienced motherly kind of upbringing together with my sister. So in fact, I had to be, to take care of them, to wash them, cook for them, walk them to school, and be present for them at a very young age.
Wow.
Yeah, life really threw me into the deep end.
Yeah, when you're very young.
When I was very young.
Yeah.
So later on, all these things poured into my academic performance. I was a poor performer.
Oh my
In
God.
fact, I used to be called a serial failure in my primary
by
school.
Your teachers?
By my teachers. They knew I will amount to nothing. They knew, in fact, most of them knew the state of our home. So they used to mock me and all those things broke.
Why would anyone do that? I mean,
I think it's how the society is, and later on, I grew up with a broken self-esteem, no sense of identity. But I used to find church to be a peaceful place to be, and school. Though at some point I hated going to classes, so I could hide, not attend classes, But by the grace of God, I was able just to pick myself up each and every day. So I did my first KCPE and I failed terribly. I got 199 marks.
Oh no.
And that is actually when I knew life really was coming to an end.
How did you handle that?
It was hard. It was very hard. I remember when the results came, I cried so hard. But I gave a call to my mom. And my mom was like, I want you to go back to school. Okay, I don't know what my mom saw, but my mom has been my first cheerleader.
Wow.
And she has been telling me, go on, son. So by that time, she told me, I want you to go back to class 7.
Did you accept?
I had to. I went back to class 7, picked up again. I did my second KCPE. I got 284 marks.
That was better.
A very good improvement.
Yes.
That time.
Yes.
I was called to a good school. Yeah. I remember one evening, 1 month late, when my other colleagues had already reported to school. I went back to my stepfather and asked him, Dad, I think it's time for me to go to school. And he fiercely told me, I'm not taking you to school. You'll be taking care of your siblings.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the first time I contemplated suicide. I went at the back of our house, and I almost hanged myself. It was raining. I can vividly remember the environment. It was raining, and that I was at the back of the house. I was wet because of rain. I was crying, deeply, and I was in anguish. And everything was darkening. Any person who has gone through that kind of a period, they'll tell you everything shuts down. Yeah. That's why someone is able just to take poison. That's why someone is able to cut themselves, because your conscience kind of leaves you before you go. Yeah. And when I was almost doing the act, a miracle just happened. I had someone calling me out. It was my cousin. So to cut the long story short, this time my grandfather, the father to my stepfather, had called me out. So I went and had a conversation with them. It was just God aligning my destiny. Yeah. So he told me, we have considered to take you to school. Wow. But
at the 11th hour.
At the 11th hour. And the other day I was just reflecting about my life. Yeah. And I was asking myself, imagine I could have committed suicide when someone was thinking about me. And this topic about suicide, I've talked about it in so many universities and a number of high schools. And I came to realize that many people are battling with it. And people have committed suicide when help was on the way.
Oh my
God.
Get? And
they
for give me, up a little too soon.
Sure. So to cut the long story short, he told me, we're going to take you to school, but not the school that you have been called. Guess what? The following day, we went to look for school with my grandmother. May the Lord rest us all in eternal peace.
Yes.
So when we were in the business of looking for school, we didn't get a school the whole day. So when we were walking back home in the evening, we passed by my former primary school. And that primary school had started a high school.
Oh.
So
see God.
And I was like, okay, so they told us, we have started a high school. Yeah. You can bring your grandson here.
Wow.
So I thought maybe it's a fancy, it's a good place.
You wanted the fancy.
And then I reported to school. You know what? I found 6 Form 1s.
You were the beginners, you were the pioneers.
Pioneers. We pioneered a school in the village. So I was the 7th one.
Wow.
Okay, as the theology goes around numbers, it was a number of completion, So I completed that puzzle. Just to cut the long story short, because I think what this introduction is very important to what we're going to talk about.
It is, yeah.
So I picked myself up. In fact, we didn't have enough money. So my grandparents just were able to buy for me, a few books and a shirt and a trouser. We borrowed a sweater, and I reported to school with my sport shoes that were worn out. And my books were in a paper bag. During people right now you cannot understand those
paper bags, polythene
paper bag.
Oh my
And
God.
Encouragement.
Oh my God.
Went to school the following day and my soul was sinking. I can tell you, it was a mixture of reaction. Yet at the same time I'm happy, yet at the same time I'm really broken.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was called to a good school. In fact, I was called to St. Joseph's Kitale.
Oh.
Right now it's a national school,
God.
So I went in, and there are some life decisions I made when I was a first year student that have kept me going till today.
Which decisions are those?
First was work ethics. You can't beat me on that. I made a decision to study like no one's business.
Wow.
I came up with a very good work ethics. Of course, it was a day school, so I used to, and it's 1 month late. People are already planning to start, midterm exams and stuff like that. and the sense of discipline and speaking positively about myself, and then the attitude of service. I started, I was a few weeks into school, they actually saw I can be the school captain when I was in my Form 1.
Leadership began.
Later on, I did my first exam and I got 1,199 marks out of 1,200. Yes.
For real?
And it was just geography that I missed 1 mark. All the rest I got 100 marks.
Impressive.
Let me tell you, Rose, it was an epiphany moment for me.
What?
Epiphany moment for me.
Okay.
I came to realize, I couldn't imagine I'm the one who's getting these results.
After getting 284 marks.
Yeah, and even 199 marks and being called a serial failure. And this is a high school that has been started by my former primary school. Teachers were even shocked. So later on, of course, they gave me books, they congratulated me. And that alone was like God, a divine message that God was communicating to me. You are not a failure, you can do better. And I had to move from my past, the past that I had actually experienced, and I thought I'm a failure. Later on, I pushed through. I got to Form 2. My grandmother started ailing. All the money was channeled to hospital bills. And I was told, now from here you can support yourselves. Cut the long story short, my mom came, picked us. And
she came back?
Yeah, she came back. Not to stay, to pick us, all of us. And we went with her to the other side of life. And at some point, we grew up with a single mom. I saw her fighting on. I saw her hustling. And I used to go do casual jobs with her. And it was hard.
What happened to your school?
Now, I was working to pay my school fees. So we had to get money to take me to school. So this transition happened when I was in my Form 2 third term. So we went back to Eldoret, where now we had to look for another school. It is hard to get school in third term. We looked for school, we didn't get. So we happened to get a school in some place in a village. It was a day school, mixed school, boarding school.
Everything.
So my mom thought I should go to a boarding school because the fee was bearable and we could actually hustle to get that money. To cut the long story short, we did that. By the goodwill of neighbors and friends, they supported me. I went to school. And I pushed through. I was able to finish my Form 4. I got a B+.
What?
Got a B+.
That's nice.
And then I received a letter of admission to Kenyatta University.
See God.
Now, during this period of transition, that is when I met my biological father.
When you're getting into campus?
Yeah, when I was getting into campus. It's a long story, but I'll make it short. At this time, I had a flashback. And the flashback took me 10 years back. Now, that is 2016. You can just do your calculation. 10 years back. 10 years back, I was with mom somewhere, and I saw some huge guy, and I had sort of a message. You go and ask your mom who that man was, because I had rumors from people around me that you have your dad and all that. So I went and asked my mom. Mom told me, that's your dad. I don't know, we're going to get him. And because I was adult enough to make right decision, and I had lived to fight on, I made a decision to go and look for my dad.
Oh, so you looked for him by yourself?
Literally looked for my dad. I walked in the city of Eldoret looking for my dad. Like no one. I know I've never told him this story. I went from one shop, because I remember that time I knew the very shop, so I was told you can just go to this place and you'll find him. I walked from one shop to another asking for him. Later on I was able to find the shop, but I didn't find him. I found the personal assistant. So he told me he's not around, but he gave me the number. So I tried reaching out to the number. I think by that time, I guess he was not out of the country. So it was just going through, but no feedback. So later on, he called me after some time. He called me, and I can tell you, I connected with my dad on phone. Phone. I was just like, so because I received this new number, this was not the number that I was given. So I was just like, hello. This is the beauty of the story. I used to use, I was using Motorola C118. Do you know that phone? Motorola C118.
I do.
That was the phone. It has an aerial. It was given by one of my uncles. So that was the present I was given after finishing my phone. That is the phone I used to call my dad. And I connected with my dad on Motorola C180. And I was like, hello, I'm Steve. And he introduced himself and he was like, where are you? I told him, he told me, now plan yourself, come with mom, we're going to meet. And the day finally came, we met. It was a hard moment. I couldn't imagine what I was seeing. I saw a tearful kind of a moment of reconciliation. We ate, we broke bread and gave thanks. And the first question my dad asked me was, what level of education are you?
Wow.
And I told him, I have received a letter to join Kenyatta University. And during that time, we were having a plan with my mom to do an arambe so that we can get money.
Oh my God.
And that was just, my life has been a miracle. I was born out of the wedlock. I couldn't survive. That's why I serve God so passionately the way I do. Because I know it is by the grace of God that I am who I am today. So later on, my dad said he will support me, supported me all through my campus life. I joined KU, served God passionately. Of course, along the way, I gave my life to God. I used to serve God. I used to know things will become better. But in 2015, I made a commitment, and I received Christ in my life, and he has been working with me since that time. Served God passionately in Kenyatta University, got into a number of leadership opportunities. And I graduated in 2021, and God has been gracious.
Clearly.
And that is the time now. Possibly we pick the conversation up. I started my NGO.
Now let's talk about that. I'm sitting with the CEO of Unlock Young Leaders Summit.
Yes.
How did it all begin? Because you said at campus you were pursuing biochemistry.
Yes.
How did you find yourself on this other side?
I was writing my final paper in 2020, December thereabout, or early December. And the paper was easy. So the paper was a bit easy. So I finished 1 hour. I had like 1 hour, and the lecturer said, no one is leaving the exam room until
the time is up.
Until the time is up.
Okay.
And that was a moment I reconnected with the heavens in a classroom.
Wow.
And at some point I felt like there's a divine visitation to the place where I was seated. These things are real. Sometimes we tell people about experience with God. They think it's just a facade experience. I had a divine moment, and one of the questions I was asking myself, Lord, what next?
What's next? A question that every person asks themselves right after they're about to transition.
Exactly.
What next?
What next?
Yeah.
And right at that point, it was in April. Just to jump, because that was December. Now, after I've had that conversation later on, now in 2020, was it in 2020, in April, I just made a commitment to seek God and to pray. And I was just praying this one prayer, clarity. I was asking God for clarity of purpose. If there is anything a human being needs to ask God, it's clarity of purpose. Because we are going to have a conversation on social capital. Social capital will never make sense if you don't have a clear sense of purpose. And I committed myself. I know we should not be shouting about this, but for the first time, I committed to seek God and pray for and fast for 21 days.
Wow.
Because it was a heavy moment for me, I committed to pray and fast for 21 days. I prayed for 21 days. Day 1, clarity of purpose. Day 2, clarity of purpose.
My God.
Day 3, clarity of purpose.
For 21 days.
Not food. Because it was during lockdown. This is happening during lockdown. In between that is May. Actually, it was on 1st of May. Now we are in a lockdown season. Let me just say it. We were doing our exams in April, not December. It was in April. So now we have gone home, and it's during lockdown. That is in May 1st because May is my birthday month. So I committed to see God for 21 days from 1st of May to the 21st of May.
Amazing.
And every day I was praying for clarity of purpose. When I got to day 6, I had a huge sense because sometimes back in 2019, 2020 in KU, I was given the responsibility to organize a conference for students. And that was the first time I met Dr. Ezekiel Mutua.
Wow.
I actually rang him and I spoke to him and I told him, I'm so and so. I am running a committee that is planning for student leadership conference and would love you to be our keynote speaker.
Wow.
And he was gracious enough to honor our invitation. And all through, of course, I mentioned I had leadership opportunities that helped me to sit and to step in places that I couldn't actually get there by any other chance. So later on, now this is the time I'm just in my room. In fact, during that lockdown, I made a commitment not to go home. So I was just seeking God. So day 6, I had a huge desire to start a platform that will bring together young leaders. Because I that is one of my passions. I have a passion for leadership development among the young people.
Yes.
That's the time I started Unlock. We started the first session and the first session we ever had was on the 7th of May. 7th of May.
Immediately after you've gotten this divine encounter on 6th.
And of course, I'm still in the chain of prayer. So this is day 7 of prayer and fasting and the first day of starting a session.
Interesting.
So I thought, you have received a sort of clear direction day 6. I made a poster through a friend of mine, Gideon, thumbs up bro. Gideon made me a poster, I was the speaker, and we had 7 people. No, we were 8 people plus myself who attended that virtual session.
Wow.
I even didn't know how to use a Zoom account. That was the first time I had an experience with Zoom.
Yes.
And we were 8 people in the room, and I was using a free subscription for 40 minutes. The 40 minutes ended and the conversation ended there. Of course, I did the second one during my birthday. During my birthday, I decided to share my story with men. So we organized for men's baraza.
Wow.
And I had men and I shared my life journey with them. And it was so inspiring. On the 21st of May, during now my last day of prayer and fasting, I organized the first leadership summit.
Goodness.
First leadership summit. And I was speaking on the topic, I can remember vividly, I was speaking on the topic 21 years of obscurity.
What?
And I shared, how do you grow in obscurity? Because it was a lockdown, how do you survive in obscurity? And we had 40 people who joined that webinar. 40. I did the second one on the last month of May. That was on 30th and 31st.
Yeah.
So I rang Dr. Ezekiel Mutua. I told him, hi Dr. I'm organizing this session and young people are going crazy about leadership. Would you mind come share your experience about leadership? And he told me, I will be available.
Oh my God, just like that.
And he honored my invitation. I rang Wahiga Mwaura. Wahiga Mwaura is, if he happens to watch this,
oh my God,
he's really, really a blessing.
I hope he watches. I'd be so honored.
Yes, because I had also invited him to come to KU during that leadership conference.
I think I saw the poster.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And I met him in a conference somewhere during Ezra 2019 in Kabara.
Okay.
And Wahiga honored my invitation. So let me tell you, when people saw that, we had 100% attendance on Zoom. In fact, some of my leaders, the people I was working with, had to leave the Zoom room
so that more people can join. So
that the speakers can join.
Oh my God.
And that was the time I realized this thing is big. Now, on the 6th of June of 2020, I rang Robert Burale. Sorry, man, I am organizing this session and I want you to come talk about feeding your purpose. These things are on social media. If people think I'm lying, you can go check them out.
I'm a witness.
Robert Burale accepted my invitation.
Wow.
When people saw Robert Burale coming and he was talking about a topic that was so central because of the season we were in, feeding your purpose. We had 100% attendance on Zoom, and we live streamed that session on our Facebook page. You can actually go check them out. Let me tell you, within 1 hour of his speaking, we had 3,100 people who watched that video on Facebook. 3,100. And when we checked on Facebook analytics later on, we saw 200 people who are watching that session from the United States. 200 people. And we are not talking about old people. We are talking about, because Facebook can give you that analysis, between 18 to 35.
The young people.
That's when I realized this thing is big and I need to work on very well on it. Sometimes later I rang one of he's actually the chief operating officer of AMREF. He's called Mr. Stephen. He's actually an namesake. I told him, because I met him in some conference somewhere. It was a virtual conference, he was speaking. And I happened to chat him. People can actually network on a Zoom call.
Yes.
I chatted with him and I told him, I'm organizing this session. I love you to come speak to people. And it was a career and mentorship now on how work-life balance. And he came. A whole chief operating officer of AMREF honored my invitation to come. Because of clarity of purpose, you get. So that is actually how Unlock Young Leader Summit grew. Right now it is 3 years and 4 months old. And from our analytics, we have been able to reach to more than 25,000 people in more than 64 countries globally.
Oh my God.
Globally. I'm not trying to say numbers that I'm not sure of. And we've been able to build a community of more than 2,000 young people. We have organized conferences at International Leadership University in Hurlingham, and I invited student leaders, and we had almost 150 student leaders from 10 universities within Nairobi County who attended that conference. I did another one at ZTech University, and we had 200. In fact, it was more than 200 people who attended. And we were having students from 16 universities. People traveled all the way from Dedan Kimathi. Guys traveled all the way from Masai Mara University and the University of Eldoret to come attend that conference here at ZTech University.
Wow.
And we have had quite a number of things. The recent one, I organized African Student Leaders Convention, and I invited quite a number of people to come speak. The likes of Mary Ben Omolo. I've invited Dr. Wole Akinyemi. I've invited PLO Lumumba to speak in some of those sessions. And we had around 658 student leaders who registered for that African Student Leaders Convention in more than 94 universities.
Oh my God. Talk of social capital.
So that is just what I'm doing. And of course, now someone can ask, did you transition from biochemistry to all these things? I think it's very important to respect season and what God is doing in your life, because in the economy of God, no experience is wasted.
No experience is wasted. That's good.
And so God allows us to go through different seasons in life, and you have to be so discerning to pick what you need to do in that very season. And in a noisy world that we are living in, it's so important to have the you moment. There's moments of solitude. To ask God, really, what do I need to do? Let me be frank to you, Rozitta. It is hard. Finding a moment of solitude and connecting with your Maker, it is not an easy thing. But you have to have the discipline of heart to making sure that you respect what God is doing in your life in a particular season.
Sure.